Welcome back. Let's head straight to Parliament, where the Speaker of the House, Alban Bagbin, is currently delivering a statement on the floor of the House concerning the chaos that marred the vetting of the CJ nominee, Paul Baffoe-Bonnie, in Parliament yesterday.
Rule 3 cautions members against imputing improper motives or using words that are disrespectful or likely to cause offense. The standing orders serve as a reminder that our proceedings must always reflect the dignity and integrity of Parliament as a key organ of state. As Speaker, I wish to reaffirm Parliament's unwavering respect for the judiciary as a co-equal arm of government under Article 125, Clause 1 of the 1992 Constitution, which vests the judiciary power of Ghana in the judiciary. The judiciary is independent of control or direction from any person or authority. The doctrine of separation of powers requires that all three arms of government, the executive, legislature, and judiciary, relate to one another with mutual respect and restraint. Consequently, I have directed the leadership of the Appointments Committee to take note of this incident and to ensure that in all future proceedings, the highest standards of civility, objectivity, and institutional respect are maintained. Honourable members, Parliament cherishes the long-standing spirit of cooperation and mutual regard between our institutions. We must remain committed to strengthening that relationship in the collective service of the people of Ghana and the protection of our constitutional democracy. Honourable members, once again, on your behalf, I extend our deepest apologies and assurances of Parliament's continued respect for the judiciary and its esteemed members. I want to assure all of you that I'll come back on this issue of decency, discipline, and decorum. And this time, I'm coming with the hammer, not the gavel. I thank you for your attention. We now take item 6, correction of votes and proceedings and official report. Honourable members, we'll start with the correction of votes and proceedings of Friday, 7th November 2025, page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7.
Right, so that's the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, there, denouncing what happened yesterday during the vetting of CJ nominee Paul Baffoe-Bonnie, where it dragged for several hours due to misunderstanding between the minority and majority there. Let's still stay in the House, though, because Parliament is expected to receive the long-delayed mining lease agreement between the government and the Bariri DV Ghana Limited when the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry presents it on the floor of Parliament any moment from now. Well, the deal covering lithium extraction at Mankasim has been pending for more than 2 years, and its appearance before the House will be the strongest sign yet that Ghana's first lithium project is finally moving forward. If tabled, the agreement will be sent to the relevant committee for scrutiny before any ratification process begins. Well, the move comes as residents of Ewoya, the community at the center of the concession, continue to bear the brunt of the delay. For 2 years, livelihoods have been on hold. Farmers cannot expand their lands, families cannot build, and resettlement plans remain stalled. Their frustration are captured in the first episode of our new series, Hope on Pause, the Lithium Promise. Right, and let's stay a while in the House and speak to our correspondent in Parliament right now, James Avigi, for an update on this. James, we've already heard the Speaker denounce the chaos that characterized the vetting of the CJ nominee yesterday. But today, though, we're expecting that particular bill to be laid before the House, the Ewoya Lithium bill. What's the latest on this?
Well, Kenneth, that's what we're all looking forward to. As we speak, the House is considering corrections on the voting proceedings of the previous sitting, and from that they will delve into the business for the day. If you look at the order paper for today, item 9, 9C captures the statements that are supposed to be presentations of papers that are supposed to be done, and 9C talks about that should come from the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, who I saw some 30-45 minutes ago. Honorable John Jinako arrived here in the presence of Parliament and proceeded to the floor of the House, and he is expected, according to the other paper, to lay what we call, to present what we call mining.
Right, we will definitely be getting more from our correspondent in Parliament, James Avigi. But let's bring you the story about the lithium, which has stalled for so many years now in our first episode of our new series, Hope on Pause, the Lithium Promise.
It was all joy in the central region when lithium was discovered within Infantiman Municipality and the Abra Asebu Komankesi district. To the people and chiefs, this was the beginning of jobs, progress and transformation.
This thing is going to benefit us and is going to provide us a lot of jobs.
But 2 years on, that joy has turned into deep frustration. The delay in ratifying Ghana's first lithium mining project has frozen all activities in the Ewoya. No building, no farming, no development, just waiting. Under this tree in the Ewoya, young men gather daily. It is their usual sport, once for laughter and plans, now for venting their frustration. All they can talk about is the moratorium and how it has frozen their plans. Among them is Richard Mensah, a father of 4, and Kwabena, a farmer. Both men are struggling to understand how a promise of development has left them with nothing. Richard leads us through overgrown weeds to what was meant to be his family home, Now, just a pile of weakening cement blocks.
My blocks in it. I've been to Messisum, Passemisi, and I'm a woman, the Megum. They say my old for lithium for me. They say my blood bone to me in Cosibio, and I'm lithium for every way. Passan can see down and me even call her, Medio Mugum. We go and say, mean to me on one that, and I'm a master and diamond chain. Inti, me go swank and me beam. Ah, sir, and commit me, mamma, mano, or me in Adam. And say, oh, Messi, my blocks and the say.
He points to the red marking sprayed across the block, the official sign of a freeze on all development. He says he and his uncle bought 4 acres to build and farm on, but all that has come to a standstill.
As I see a J, and me say a Dawson. Inti Adenaka 4 acres. I say a bush and Obi Abedi de Subi. They say they are my or the harbor and say me case cry me a crank commission. I say Mahami. You was many a penny, I say. Like many in
Ewoya, he once worked with Atlantic Lithium, a company that discovered the precious mineral. But when the project stalled, so did his job.
They issue a moratorium on the land. From that day, you can't farm, you can't build, you can't undertake any economic activity. So the mine takes stock of every property from the date of the moratorium. So if you go and do something new after that date, it's classified as spurious or speculative. That is, you are deliberately doing it so that you qualify for compensation.
Richard's frustration is shared by hundreds of residents, all trapped between uncertainty and survival. Not far from Richard's land lives Kwabena, a farmer and a hunter. His story mirrors Richard's.
And I'm stop here to me for Nicase. I'm a bush, I'm land say, Nundo na Mundia Abewoso. But me status a midday for Nana Lithium for no Ebeka say, Yenjai Ejumana Yen. They say, of course, Yejumana, I'm mind no Bayeno, Ebahayeno, just because I'm a tree for her. At the right now, or say a mom, because I'm Basha Seno, only Baha, only a nice conversation. He had
planted plantain before the moratorium, and even that can no longer continue. Like many, he too lost his job when the company reduced operations following the delay in parliamentary ratification.
For 2 years, that's a me can talk about compensation. 2 years, so I don't 4 posts, now come here 1 post, and 5 posts. Oh, this other about me, sir. And every system to be a media board dinner, and baby, Kefuna, Casanka. You say I may wear high critics and comedian case, by 3 posts in account. And I body and quan. Is I mean 2 years, man.
2 years deprivation from undertaking any economic activity. No farming, no building, no project. Everything is no. So we even had to come in to go and negotiate that, fine. Let them do these petty food crops like maize, like people were going to starve.
In October 2023, government granted Atlantic Lithium a 15-year mining lease for the Ewoya Lithium project. But before operations could begin, Parliament's ratification was required. 2 years on, that ratification is still pending.
Here we are for ratification, and lithium for because young one there. So we ratify the lithium for now. Wababua away a mine, and see a straight a binder. Omomadiara, na omre lithium fun anaye we yaman yesra bam na won yeden won electrify ade no won famo yesra ban.
During this delay, a moratorium was imposed, freezing all building and farming within the mining concession. It has left residents like Richard and Kwabena stranded, compensations unpaid, and resettlement plans stalled.
But no company will invest into such a venture when the government itself is not helping by way of what? Giving ratification to it. So when I told them, they understood it. And they saw that it is not the fault of the company.
At the time the lease was signed, the global price for lithium was about $3,000 per ton. Today, it has fallen sharply to around $850 per ton, raising concerns about the project's economic viability. In the lead-up to the 2024 elections, President John Dramani Mahama, speaking at a meeting with the Central Regional House of Chiefs, stressed the urgency of rectifying the Ewoya lithium project before it risks becoming a stranded asset.
Right now, lithium is the favored choice for batteries for electric vehicles. But if we don't mine it quickly, otherwise, if time passes by, we have what we call stranded assets. You have an asset, but it's stranded. There's no longer any need for it. And so I think that is something, this is a national cause. If that revenue comes, it's going to come to help the whole nation.
With the collapse in the world market price of lithium, there is now consensus. The initial terms of the lease would have to be revised to keep the project viable. In July this year, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, Emmanuel Amakofibua, told Parliament he has received Cabinet approval to submit revised terms to Parliament for ratification.
The Ministry has notified Cabinet of the company's request, and Cabinet has granted me the approval to present new terms to be considered in a new memo with revised proposal for the consideration of Cabinet and to Parliament thereafter to save the project.
We will not forgive them if they defer it again.
2 years of silence, 2 years of waiting. The people of Ewoya and the 7 other host communities wait for Parliament's decision, believing it could turn their stalled dreams into reality. Whether the promise of lithium brings prosperity or becomes just another lost dream depends on one thing: action. Emmanuel Jivenu, JoyNews, Ewoya, Central Region.
So that's the first episode of our new series, Hope on Pause, the Lithium Promise. And I still have our Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, James Aveji, with me on Zoom. James, in wrapping up with us, we know that the Ministry for Lands is the one responsible for laying this. Have you seen the sector minister in Parliament today?
Well, Ken, that's what I was talking about, that the House is just about beginning. In fact, they have begun, proceedings have begun with the Speaker's statement, and the ministers are on the floor of the House. And that advertisement of the mining lease agreement presentation to Parliament has also been advertised in the order paper. Item 9C captures that the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources will be presented that. And so we are waiting for that. Just some quick details on that. The agreement between the government of Ghana and Bavaria DV gives the company, which has been described as a wholly owned Ghanaian company, some 15 years to mine lithium and other natural resources in the Ewoya area in the central region. After 15 years, the government of Ghana has the liberty to extend the contract or otherwise. And as part of that, the first time this agreement was signed was some 2 years ago in October 2023. It was first brought to Parliament in July 2024. When the agreement was signed, it was sent to the committee responsible for mining, They worked on it and brought it to the floor of the House in July 2024. Since then, it just hit the rock. Nothing has been done on it, and eventually expired with the previous Parliament. This is the first time it is coming back to the floor for them to do. What we do not know is whether it will be coming under a certificate of urgency or they would lay it today, do the first reading, and then it will stay to mature in 21 days, and then the process continues until they are able to pass it eventually within this Parliament. But I can confirm that it has been advertised to be taken today. Just before I go, we just having the indication on the floor from the Majority Leader. You started with that statement of the Speaker on what happened yesterday. Even though he's made his official statement on the matter, the Majority Leader Mahama Ayariga is just seeking his liberty to allow him make an official complaint about what had happened at the vetting committee yesterday, and maybe cite the Minority Leader of contempt of Parliament if that will be the case. And so we'll be monitoring all of those and see how it pans out on the floor of the House. Kenneth. Thank you very much, James. Indeed, James Aveji is our correspondent from Parliament. Now, away from Parliament, though, a devastating combination of bad weather and high terrain led to the fatal crash of a Z9 helicopter on the 6th of August this year, claiming 8 lives, including Defense Minister Edward Omanibuama and Environment Minister Murtala Mohammed. The investigative committee that probed the crash revealed at a press briefing earlier that the tragedy was caused by a sudden loss of altitude and lift resulting from a powerful downdrift. Now, a member of the committee, Captain Retired Paul Fojua, explained that the aircraft experienced abrupt changes in environmental conditions while flying over high terrain, leading to the fatal crash. Take a listen.
Fojua, who took us through the processes that they had to go through, the rigorous processes that they went through to come to the conclusions that they've reached and then the recommendations that they have made. He talked about taking the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder. All of that, we're told, were taken to China, where the Z9 helicopter was manufactured. That happened sometime in September. One of the questions that came up was whether they listened to the cockpit's voice recorder, and he said yes, indeed. They listened to the cockpit voice recorder, and all of that made them, together with other things that they identified, made them come to the conclusion that indeed the cause of the helicopter crash was a sudden loss of altitude. So he's also talked about the weather conditions, both in southern Ghana and also in the community in the Ashanti region where the crash happened. He said the weather was not good. It was one of the things that he talked about and one of the contributory factors to the helicopter crash.
Visual flight rules in marginal weather. The flight to Baffoe-Bonnie was uneventful. Baffoe-Bonnie is approximately 90 miles from Accra, about 10 miles from Obuasi. As the flight approached Obuasi, visibility deteriorated rapidly due to mist and low clouds. At 9:56, the crew entered IMC, which is Instrument Meteorological Conditions. To the layman, it is they flew into clouds because they no longer could stay away from the clouds, so they flew into clouds and transitioned to IFR. Now, IFR is Instrument Flight Rules. So what it means is they now transitioned from navigating using visual cues to now navigation solely on the aircraft's instruments. The crew then initiated a climb to cross terrain that they were aware of. They initiated the climb to cross the terrain. Seconds before impact, the crew stated that they could see the high ground below, so they had gone over it. Suddenly thereafter, the helicopter that was flying up without any change in its power or in the pitch, which we use to go up and down, suddenly lost height and impacted a ridgeline at about 1370 feet above sea level. And this was about 6.5 miles from the destination, and this happened at 9:58.
Another key issue that came up was some safety enhancements, on the flight. He said that some safety enhancements like autopilot and others were not present, on the flight. So although the flight was in a good condition, to fly, there were some features that were not present on the helicopter. It is his view that if those features were present, it could perhaps have averted the helicopter crash.
The helicopter was airworthy, but it lacked additional safety enhancements. For instance, the terrain awareness warning system. Now, the terrain awareness warning system, for instance, is predictive. So what it does is it tells you, warns you, it gives you a better picture of the situation and puts the pilots in puts them in a position to make better judgments, to be able to see everything and be able to foretell if there are any things that could possibly create a problem. But they lack the additional safety enhancements required for the weather phenomenon over that terrain. There was adverse weather, there was limited visibility, there was rising rugged terrain, with this terrain induced complicating factors, and there were no ground-based navigational route aids en route. The investigation would like to say that from everything they gathered, the emergency response was very timely. The fact that these first responders managed to get to the site in about 2 hours was remarkable because the terrain has very steep slopes. It was raining, it was slippery. So it wasn't the easiest thing to do. When we went to the site, it was also raining and it was very slippery. And we struggled using sticks and everything to try to get up there. So looking at everything, we would say very confidently that the emergency response was very timely. The investigation determined that the accident was caused by the sudden loss of altitude and lift due to downdraft. This loss of altitude without change in power or pitch altitude is consistent with downdraft associated with changing environmental conditions over high terrain.
Now, key amongst the recommendations that the committee is making armed forces fleets, to be modernized. Our safety recommendations. There is a definite need to modernize the fleet of the Ghana Air Force. We have recommended that the Air Force acquire modern aircraft with terrain avoidance warning systems and modern navigation systems. That the aircraft should have cockpit voice recorders and flight data recorders, which are the audiovisual capable types. That the Air Force should invest in simulators for recurrent training. That they contract certified aviation weather provider or providers, and that Ghana as a nation should try to have en route navigational aids, especially in remote areas. The Air Force should seriously consider establishing flight data monitoring and en route tracking systems. And finally, we believe that they need to acquire ground support equipment, modernize what they have.
In conclusion, the helicopter accident was an unfortunate and sudden weather-related accident. Implementing the safety recommendations will prevent the reoccurrence of future accidents.
So that was Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Agbagba with that report there, and of course may the souls of those who sadly lost their lives on the 6th of August continue to rest in peace. And Wing Commander Patrick Nelson Sogbajo is a retired Ghana Air Force officer, and he's joined us on Zoom for more on this. Thank you very much, officer, for joining us. So you've seen the report, you've had the report as presented at the Jubilee House earlier today. What are your initial thoughts of it?
Well, good afternoon to your listeners. I think it's a very comprehensive report which has come out. And if you remember, I appeared on your television and voice when the accident happened. And my main concern was to find out what happened for the aircraft to descend from approved height to come down and hit something and then crash. And I think the report so adduced had laid a blame squarely, not on equipment, the aircraft per se, not the pilots, but on weather. And nobody can control weather, especially when you are flying over such a heavy forested area, where you don't have chances of landing the aircraft, being a helicopter or fixed wing.
Right. You spoke about they attributed it to the weather, but do you think there should be a further, accountability, for example, within the military command structure for authorizing flights under such bad conditions?
For example, I believe you've flown before. And before an aircraft takes off, you are giving weather reports. But that one, you must first clarify that no pilot wants to go and die. And the Air Force will not send you up no weather is not. The Air Force is not in control of weather. They get the weather from Met Office. And the Met Office will give you the weather at the control level, control tower. The Air Force has no business on that one. And the pilot will not decide to fly if the weather is beyond his capability.
Right. So what lessons do you think we can draw from this tragic incident that happened a couple of months ago?
You see, this tragic incident which happened, it's not the fault of the pilots. It's not the fault of the equipment, whether it was airworthy or not. It's weather, and weather can develop at any time en route. If you know the weather before you start your engine and take off, if the weather is not good, you wait. But when you get clearance that you can go, en route to your destination, weather can change at any time. And unfortunately, helicopters don't go too high. If there have been a normal fixed flight about 5,000 up to about 40,000, the downdraft won't have much effect because you are higher and you have room to maneuver. But when a helicopter which is flying, they are just 2,000 feet above the highest obstacle, you don't have that much chance when you suddenly run into a downdraft or updraft.
Right.
And where there's no possibility of landing the airplane at the school park or market square or something. It's rather unfortunate.
Commander, indeed, it is the weather, as you've mentioned, and as the report has indicated to us. But there should surely be some lessons that we can draw from this. For example, if we're not too sure about the weather, should we still go ahead and fly and say that because
I have just told you that before you lift up an aircraft, you report your flight plan, which is submitted to the control tower. Control tower will give you a report. And even before you go to the airplane, You are, as soon as you give a touch, you know the weather. And if the weather is not friable, you will not go.
Okay.
Nobody can force you to go and crash. No, it doesn't work that way. You get met instructions from the control tower, and our daily met reports also come through. So you have to wait until it's clear. But whether developing en route, you have no control over it.
One of the recommendations by the committee was that, most of the fleet that is being used by the Ghana Air Force should be changed. Is that something you share with the committee?
Wow, change to what? I mean, for example, I know Captain Fojo very well. And he listed a lot of planes he has flown. Okay?
Okay.
When planes are being manufactured, they don't manufacture planes specifically for the Air Force or for the civil. It depends what you, the operator, wants to use the aircraft for. And then you add things which you will put in. I mean, for example, this plane is about 10, 15 years old, and it's flown all over the country. Are we saying that without those things, they were not flying? Isn't the same airplane were flying, the president here, ministers here? Let us accept this as an unfortunate accident. Do you understand? I was trained abroad. And the same aircraft I was trained on, if you went to the civil type, they have more gadgets than the Air Force type.
Okay.
Okay? So there's no standardization about the plane. It's how airworthy the aircraft is. And it come out that it was not the aircraft, it was not the pilot. It was weather. And weather, they don't have control. You can't predict weather from here to Kumasi. Maybe by the time you get to Konongo, something has changed. If it's so bad, the control tower will give you a warning that there's weather on this side. You understand me? But this plane has been flown from Accra to almost just 8 minutes to destination. And because of this height or separation, let's say 1,000, 2,000 from the highest object, you have a downdraft who pushes the aircraft down. It is not like it starts and you have 30 minutes. Seconds. You understand it? You don't have chance to do anything. But if, for example, as I said earlier, it wasn't a heavy forested area, you could have maneuvered to land in some school park or something. All right? But this happened in a heavy forested area.
Okay.
And there's no chance they could have landed on top of the trees.
Right. Commander, let's go through a few of the recommendations that was recommended by the committee. It recommended, for example, that we should install en route navigation aids, especially in remote areas like the place where this incident happened. Do you agree with that?
It depends. It depends on our economic situation.
Okay.
Forger has flown all over the world. Is he saying that every country has fly aids scattered all over the country? It's virtually impossible. We have Obuasis on the Kumasi.
And that's
and I think right from the beginning, a lot of people got the whole thing wrong when they said the aircraft was out of radar. It should have been out of communication. You can install Obuasi Accra. It's not a normal route, is it? So where are you going to position those aids? Are you with me?
I am, sir.
Yes, they are reporting points for pilots as we fly. Accra to Obuasi is not such a long stretch that they have to put radar. How often do we fly from Accra to Obuasi? All the recommendations are ideal recommendations, but they are not things you can more or less do.
Are you saying most of them are not realistic, the recommendations?
I'm not saying most of them, some of them.
Okay.
They've done a good job, and I appreciate what they've done. And they told us what happened. We were all wondering, was it the pilots, was it the aircraft? And they've all been exonerated. You can't exonerate the weather.
Well, let's go through the final recommendation that I want to ask your thoughts about to see whether they are feasible or not. It also recommended that the Air Force should invest in simulators for recurrent training Is that something you think is feasible? We should do?
Well, now let's go back. When was the Ghana Air Force from 1959? Okay?
Yes.
And all of us have been trained. Fortunately, I was done at the with the Italian Air Force. Don't you have pilots who be flying all the time? Well, then we didn't, at that time, we didn't have flight simulators. But how did you fly? How did you do it? All these things are modern things. I mean, you have about 4, 5, 6 different aircraft in Ghana Air Force. If they recommend that we need a flight simulator for training, yes. But it is not mandatory. What you do in flight simulator, you do it on the ground. But if an instructor will take you on the up, you fly on the ground, you still have to go up. You can't qualify as a pilot on flight simulator. You qualify a flight simulator pilot. You do flight simulator, you come and do the actuals in the air. I hope I've explained it to you.
Yes, indeed, you have. Thank you very much for.
Is there anything else that I need clarification? Let us, I want the populace to take faith. And Ghana Air Force has a very high safety record in the world. Ever since 1959, our crashes less than 4 or 5. But this was a weather-generated accident. So we should accept it as an accident. I think, period, that's what happened. I mean, it's very sad the personnel who died. They could have been soldiers, they could have been anybody. But they are all souls. Okay? An accident, there's no ideal accident. An accident is an accident.
Okay, I wanted to let you go, but there's one final recommendation by the committee that I want to put to you. It says that there was no stimulator training for the crews. I continue to say that a deficit in enhanced training was noted.
And that is why I'm giving you what is a simulator training. I'm telling you that no matter how many hours you go in the simulator, you will have to go to do the actual flying. Simulator is just to keep on refreshing you. It is not compulsory. And I'm saying that since 1959, when the Ghana Air Force was enacted, how many pilots have we lost without using simulator? How many of them? I have my own private simulator in the house. I fly occasionally. But that is not mandatory. You do simulator, you have to come out. Simulator will develop to cut out the flying hours.
Right.
That you need to become a pilot. You need time you take off. You consume a lot of fuel. And that is not for free. If they had a simulator, good enough. But if you don't have, it doesn't denigrate the type of training Ghana Air Force gives you, physically. It doesn't.
Okay, thank you very much. Wing Commander Patrick Nelson Sobojo, retired, speaking to us there. He's a retired Ghana Air Force officer there. And of course, on Thursday, the budget will be read by the Finance Minister, Cassiel Ato-Forson. What is in it for the ordinary Ghanaian? You should stick and stay with JoyNews on Thursday. We will be bringing you in-depth analysis on what to expect, how it will affect you, how it will affect your pocket. With taxes will be scrapped. Are there introductions of new taxes? You have to stick and stay with us on JoyNews throughout the day, because in the evening also we have something special for you on Thursday evening after the budget is read. The Pulse returns after this break. Welcome back to The Pulse. For nearly 2 years, residents of Baatsona, East and Central have endured a worsening water crisis that's taking a serious toll on their health and finances. Many say cases of typhoid, skin rashes and diarrhea have become common as they are forced to rely on rainwater and pay exorbitant prices to private water tankers. Now, weary and frustrated residents say their patience has run out and they are threatening to escalate the issue if authorities do not act. Noella Karen Yale has more in this report.
I am here at Baatsona, East and Central on the Spintex Road, specifically the district pay point of the Ghana Water Limited, and the desperation for water in the area runs deep. Residents say they've forgotten what it feels like or looks like to turn on the taps and see water flow. And for almost 2 years, they've had to rely on rainwater harvesting and water tankers who charge exorbitant prices, twice or even 3 times the usual rate, just to fill a few drums of water.
At the Daniel Classic School Complex International here in Baatsona, Mr. and Mrs. Ahaji say keeping the school running has become a daily struggle. With no water flowing through the taps, they now depend largely on rainwater to keep the classrooms and washrooms clean. They explain that even when they manage to get water from private tankers, delivery delays and poor quality makes it difficult to maintain hygiene standards for their pupils.
In fact, right from last year and this year is the worst, because I would say this year is worse because even the water we'll be buying, maybe 700 is now 1,000. The 400 is 600 now. You see, so this year is the worst time. And it will take you, when you have to order ahead of time, maybe 2 days before you can get it. Like, you see that this time are empty. I only hope is this. And if I don't give the order now, Monday will be in trouble. And so sometimes it is the rain that comes in and we get some, like we saw those, that's just this.
Let me speak to your wife. I mean, you run a school. You have a lot of kids here. Obviously, they need water to go by their daily activities here in school. How do you cope? How are you navigating the situation?
The situation is terrible. In fact, I even went to the Facebook and then I spoke to the president to come to our aid because we are handling children. I even told them that there was once we purchased the water, but it was like milkish. And you use this water to cook for the children.
It was dirty.
It was dirty. Do you understand? So, and recently the children are going to admission, vomiting, running, which is not the best. So we want the government to give us water.
The chairman of the Residents Association, Mr. Thomas, says the water shortage has gone beyond inconvenience. It's now a public health and financial crisis. He explains that families are forced to spend money that could have gone to other household needs just to buy water.
To fill these tanks, I have to buy 800 cedis a week. 800 cedis a week. But the normal bill that I pay is 100 cedis because I use just about 5,000-6,000 gallons. So it is about 3,000 cedis a month for 1 year. One tanker actually told me that, if it's for a building or something, they are going to take it from a dam. But if it's for house, they will going to take it from a tap or a borehole. Only God knows the metallic particles, the rust. We find a lot of things. We find insects in the water. We find metal particles. So the rainwater is something that we have to rely on. As at now that we speak, look, the tanks are empty. They are all empty. Look at that. There's no water in them. Skin rashes have gone on the rise. The diarrhea, diseases, and so on and so forth. Vomiting. There's a school right here. We'll go there and you talk to them. And it's become such a major issue because health is wealth. Without good water, sanitation doesn't mean anything.
Many here believe the situation has dragged on for far too long. Frustrated and losing patience, residents say they are ready to take stronger action if authorities fail to restore a steady water supply soon.
This is a situation that appears even to be deliberate. I do not want to say that, but I think that for an area to be without water for 1 whole year, it means that enough is not being done to service the community. We have had numerous explanations. The explanations vary from their tank pipe breaks in major pipelines. And we are also told that the desalination plant, which is in Teshi, has been shut. So the explanations are so different. So we have realized that there's the need for us to take our lives into our hands. So we are likely to take it up to a higher level. I mean, we are in a community, we are in Tema West. So therefore we have an MP. We have recourse to other means. We have the Tema regional authorities. We have the head office. We have the PURC.
From Baatsona Eastern Central, here on the Spintex Road, I'm Noella Kareniali, and this is JoyNews.
Noella Kareniali with that report. Now let's talk about the budget, because the upcoming 2026 budget is expected to be heavy on VAT rationalization, which could pave the way for the removal of the COVID-19 levy, which President John Dramani Mahama promised to scrap. JoyNews sources say the new VAT structure will no longer be a cost to businesses, with the flat rate system expected to be abolished. JoyNews Research has details of the new VAT, and head of research here at JoyNews, Isaac Kofi, is joining me in the studio with details of it. Kofi, what really do we know about the new VAT?
2026 budget is expected to be heavy on taxes, right?
Okay.
Not necessarily to mean that there will be new taxes, but there will be a lot of reforms, rationalization, and restructuring.
Okay.
And one tax handle that will play a key role in this whole restructuring of taxes is the value-added tax, which is the VAT.
Right.
Remember, before President Mahama even became president, he had criticized the nature of our current VAT, saying that it was, a tax handle that was milking people dry, looking at its nature, because there was a part of it that made it possible for government to tax a tax on tax, right? To charge a tax on tax. And that is the aspect of the VAT that government wanted to restructure. And remember that there was also a promise by this current government to scrap the COVID-19 levy, which they said was a draconian tax. They were not able to do that in the 2025 budget because you have the COVID-19 levy, which is woven into the VAT system. And so if you want to take it out, you have to dissect the VAT and try and take the COVID-19 out of it before you can say that, well, goodbye to COVID-19 levy. They've done all the consultation, they've done all the legwork and all the technical analysis with support from the World Bank and the IMF. And now we have a new VAT, which the finance minister will present to Parliament on Thursday when he reads the budget. We've been trying to understand what is contained in this new VAT. So we've been speaking to our sources, right? And the confirmation we are getting is that this current VAT that's going to Parliament, or the finance minister is going to put out, there will be no more tax on tax. So essentially, what it means is that, the current status, if you are buying, let's say, bread from the mall, and the original price of the bread is 10 cedis, the current VAT allows government to charge COVID-19 levy of 2.5%, Get Fund levy of 2.5%, NHIL levy of 1%, Get Fund levy and NHIL and COVID levy of 1%. on the original price of the product. And when they are done charging all of these taxes, they add the tax that they've charged on the 10 cedis to the 10 cedis before a VAT is applied. So that makes the effective VAT rate, it sends that value to about 22%. Government says they are going to take away that aspect. The COVID-19 aspect will no longer be there. It will go away. And you have the Get Fund levy and the NHIL, which will not be part of the base on which the VAT will be applied. And so that is what it simply means when we say there will be no tax on tax in terms of the VAT. And our sources also say that, if you look at the COVID-19 levy, it will no longer be there. And so that is expected to reduce the effective VAT rate from the current 22 to about, let's say, 20%. And we are also getting information that we could have a 0% VAT for mining companies who are hoping to do exploration, right? So if you're a mining company and you have a license to do exploration, what we are learning from our sources is that the current structure, the current VAT structure will allow you to escape the current VAT system. You will not pay any VAT on your activities. And then also, we also understand that there will be no flat rates anymore, right? So the kind of VAT where we are, where there are different aspects, where there are about 3 types of VAT where people pay different things and there's no compliance anymore. This current structure will mean that there will be no more flat rate. There's going to be a standardized VAT for everybody to pay.
We'll come to the flat rate, but I'm quite interested in the mining one. So who does it apply to? Does it apply to local mining industries or multinational ones, or both of them?
In fact, we are still trying to get details as far as this information is concerned. But what we can confirm, based on what our sources have told us, is that there's an aspect of the restructured VAT that is going to Parliament, which will allow mining companies who are, doing exploration, right, activities to have a 0% VAT. As to whether this will be small-scale miners or large-scale miners.
Medium scale.
Medium scale, we are still trying to find information with regards to that. I'm sure by tomorrow we should be able to have that information as well. But what we can confirm from our sources is that VAT will play an important role in the upcoming 2026 budget. And you have aspects where it could be possible, and the key word here is that it could be possible that mining companies who are going to do exploration could have a 0% VAT. Effective VAT rates for general consumption and general goods and services expected to be reduced from the current 22% to about 20%. There will be no tax on tax as far as the VAT is concerned, and the fact that the COVID-19 levy, this time around as a result of the current restructuring of the VAT, we might be able to say goodbye to the COVID levy.
The average Ghanaian will ask, how am I going to benefit from the removal of these taxes that you speak about? Can you help us understand, not to jump ahead of ourselves, though?
Yeah, I know you shop at the mall a lot, right? So if you actually buy your usual bread that you love, right? And if you buy the bread and you check the receipts, you see a number of taxes, and sometimes you compute the taxes and then you ask yourself, how much is actually the actual cost of the bread? And so with this restructured VAT, the expectation is that prices are expected to go down at the malls, places that, you have this EVATs and all of that. We're expecting that prices will go down because we will not have that cascading impact again where a tax is added to the original price of the good before VAT is taxed. When that happens, you can be rest assured that prices will come down a bit. And currently, inflation is still single digit, trending downwards to about 7%. Currently, it's around 8.1%. That is what consumers should expect. Okay. On the side of businesses, this, if happens, will be very, very good news for businesses because they've been complaining about the draconian nature of the current VAT, and many have said that it is the biggest robbery going on and nobody's talking about it because they don't understand the current structure of our VAT. It looks like we are the only country in the world practicing this kind of VAT. And so to be able to sterilize it and bring it to this point, if that is agreed, could also be a very, very big relief for businesses.
Kofi, don't go yet, but let's listen to the finance minister who will be appearing before Parliament on Thursday, Kasiel Ato-Forson, speak about reforms in our tax system. Listen to him.
Speaker, I now take you to VAT reforms, VAT reforms. Right Honourable Speaker, we commit to the people of Ghana and this House, the business community, that we will undertake a comprehensive value-added tax reform this year. Mr. Speaker, with the aim to review the current distortions and cascading structure of the value-added tax regime. Ghana's effective rate, VAT rate is about 22%. This is obviously because the 2.5% get fund levy, the national health insurance levy of 2.5%, and the COVID levy are well added to the base for a final determination of what is due for VAT purposes. Mr. Speaker, aside a high VAT rate, businesses are not permitted by law to claim their input VAT for NHIL, Get Fund, and COVID levy, compounding the burden on households. Right Honourable Speaker, our VAT regime has been distorted and rendered inefficient. It combines both VAT and sales tax principles with a flat rate, standard rate, and levies.
So that's the Finance Minister, Kasiel Ato-Forson, on the floor of Parliament, promising tax reforms that we're expecting to come into effect when he reads his budget on Thursday. And I still have the head of research here at JoyNews, Isaac Ofieje, in the studio with me. Isaac, you were making a point of how this is going to impact businesses. You've already talked about how the average Ghanaian might benefit or otherwise from these new tax reforms. Let's talk about, or let's wrap up with how it's going to impact businesses.
Well, in fact, this will be a key determinant to how next year's inflation will look like. Because you should know that inflation starts rise from farm gates and production, points before it gets to the consumer. And so essentially, if VAT is restructured and we have it in the form that is our source is telling us in terms of the key reduction, the effective rate reducing to 20% from 22%, that will essentially mean that businesses can now reduce their cost of production from that angle of VAT, right? And if you are also talking about the ability to actually collect this VAT, the current system doesn't allow you to collect the VAT, right? The COVID-19 levy, the COVID-19 levy, the GET fund, and the NHIL, it's added to your cost. It's added as a cost, and you're not able to collect it. But with this new arrangement, businesses can now go ahead to do the collection, right? Whilst you have the COVID-19 aspect of the VAT, which will technically be taken away, and that will be a big relief, not just to consumers, but also for businesses as well.
If you don't go yet, I'll come back to you in a moment. But in the meantime, an audit of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SSNIT, has revealed widespread encroachment on 9 underdeveloped parcels of lands owned by the pension fund, valued at over 800 million Ghana cedis, raising serious concerns about asset protection and institutional control. The audit identified over 3,000 acres of SSNIT lands affected by encroachment. This is equivalent to the size of over 1,700 football fields. Now, data tracked by JoyNews research shows the most heavily impacted are the Baatsona, Akwili, Nkwanta, and Odupong Ofanko sites in the Greater Accra region, all of which have been fully encroached. The JoyNews research team has also been studying their report, and as I mentioned earlier, I still have the head of the research desk here at JoyNews, Kofi Ajay, in the studio with me. But before I speak to you once again, Kofi, let's listen to the Director General of SSNIT, Kwesi Baffoe-Bonnie, speak to the Public Account Committee about these lands.
On the 9 plots of land at various locations that were highlighted in the report, SSNIT is in the process of regularizing for the encroachers on 3 of them. We realized that 3 had been almost totally encroached. So the best strategy to adopt at the time was to sell those lands and get those who had built on those lands to pay for those lands. So to date, SSNIT has recovered 23 million cedis and $783,000 from those sales. The regularization is ongoing. The next phase would involve us putting some notifications in the newspapers and letting people know that if they do not regularize before the deadline that we provide, we will then take the necessary steps to protect our interest as well. That's for Botiano, Donkona, and Klagon. For Wa and Bolga, there was a need for us to do the base mapping, which has now been done and is with the 2 district assemblies for the scheming to be done, after which we'll take the necessary steps to sell those lands as well. Then there is the land, the OTA land at Edum. There's a bit of litigation on that land, so that we would have to go through the legal processes in trying to resolve that. For Akwadum and Odupong Ofanko, the base mapping is currently also underway to ensure that we move to the next phase of trying to get value from those lands. Thank you.
So that's the Director General of SSNIT when he appeared before Parliament's Appointment Committee a while ago. And Public Accounts Committee, I beg your pardon, a few days ago, and I still have Kofi Ajay in the studio with me to break down details of these lands that have been encroached upon that are worth over 800 million Ghana cedis. Kofi, what more do we know about this staggering revelation?
In fact, when I saw the data or the numbers, I was shocked because these lands that we are talking about, that's about 3,161 acres of land, and these are just 9 parcels of land belonging to SSNIT. And if you are watching us at home and you want to visualize this, it's about over 1,700 football fields combined. That is the mass of the land that we are talking about, that SSNIT, belonging to SSNIT, and currently that have been, encroached upon, and that's really unfortunate. Because if you value this, 3,161 acres of land that we are talking about, what you realize is that in terms of the estimation, the monetary value of this land is about 851 million Ghana cedis. 851 million Ghana cedis is the value of the SSNIT lands, that have been encroached upon at the moment. And in fact, if we try and break this down and look at the top three in terms of the affected places, SSNIT has a land, according to the Auditor General's report, at Baatsona, right? It's about 1,278 acres. That land has been fully encroached by people or private developers. You have another land, 640 acres, belonging to SSNIT again, at Aquile Nkwanta, fully encroached. Odupon of Angkor, the land you spoke about, 500 acres, also fully encroached. Now, we spoke about the big figure of 851 million Ghana cedis. Let's just break this down to the top three that we've spoken about.
Okay.
If you look at the Baatsona land, for instance, that land, according to the Auditor General, is valued at 396.6 million Ghana cedis. Ken?
That's almost half of the entire value of these lands we're speaking about.
Absolutely. And if you add Aquile Nkwanta, that's 224 million Ghana cedis. Odupon of Angkor is about 105 million Ghana cedis. If you combine these three, that's about 70% of the acreage of land that we are talking about, fully encroached. And SSNIT, if you listen to the DG, says that it's becoming increasingly difficult to actually get these lands, reclaim these lands. And the Auditor General even put in the audit that it will be difficult for SSNIT to actually, reclaim all of this land. It will take a number of legal issues and all of that. Because you're talking about just 3 of these parcels of land out of the 9, and about 725 million Ghana cedis worth of the total we are talking about already fully encroached. And per what we are learning, it will be difficult for SSNIT to fully say that we are taking everything. That's why they are now talking about regularization. It means that SSNIT will now go to the people who have now developed these lands and say that, well, this land belongs to us. Maybe we cannot take it, but we want you to pay for the value of the parcel that you are sitting on or what you've developed. And that is the approach being used by SSNIT. But if you actually look at the report, what you realize is that it will be difficult for SSNIT to say that they are recovering all this 851 million Ghana cedis worth of land that has already been encroached upon by private individuals. According to them, they've been able to, out of this 851 million Ghana cedis, about 23 million Ghana cedis have been, reclaimed at the moment through the what they call the how do you call it? The regularization approach. But the question is, how did SSNIT end up spending pensioners' funds belonging to people who, we all contribute to SSNIT, and when we go on pension, expect that we should be able to get this. And you buy these lands, and you've not been able to fence them, you've not been able to protect these lands, and you've left them at the mercy of private individuals. And according to the Auditor General's report, 9 parcels of land worth about 851 million Ghana cedis encroached upon. And about 3 of them fully encroached. And in terms of the value, that takes about 70% of the big value of 851 million that we are talking about. So it's a big question and a big black box in the Auditor General's report.
Right.
And you heard responses from SSNIT over there, and they're saying that they're still keeping tabs on it. They're doing their best to recover ones that they will be able to, and using the regularization approach to make sure that they get some of this.
You mentioned that so far they've been able to, reclaim about 20-something million Ghana cedis from it. If they use the regularization approach, which you spoke about, how much do you think they can recover from this amount?
In fact, if you look at the amount in terms of the land, the proportion that has been fully encroached upon, that is the biggest component, right? And that for me will be the part that will be difficult for SSNIT to regularize, right? Because if it is partially encroached, that means you can start talking about fencing to actually reclaim part of the lands and all of that. But those that have been fully encroached upon, it will not come easy to just walk to somebody and say that this land belongs to me and then pay this amount so that you can. People have already paid money to agents and other people to actually get this land. And so you can already see that there will be a lot of litigations. There will be a lot of legal issues and all of that. So it will not be on a silver platter for SSNIT to say that they will reach about 200 million Ghana cedis maybe in the next 2 or 3 years. It is going to be difficult, especially with the land that have been fully encroached upon and have been developed. Reclaiming this land will require SSNIT to go through a lot of legal battles. And if you ask me how much SSNIT can recoup, 23 million out of 851 million Ghana cedis, that's a long way
chicken change
to go. In fact, there's also a land around Edum in Kumasi worth about 9.8 million Ghana cedis where it belongs to SSNIT. But the funny thing is, they don't have documentation to prove that the land belongs to them.
That is quite interesting. Isaac Ofieje, always good to have you in the studio to give us detailed analysis on pressing issues of national concern. You're still watching the polls here on JoyNews. We take a quick break. We'll be back with more. Welcome back to the polls. Now, the race for the national chairmanship and general secretary positions of the opposition New Patriotic Party is heating up as several party heavyweights gear up for what many predict will be one of the hottest internal contests in the party's history. So far, about 7 prominent figures have declared their intentions to occupy the chairmanship slot, including former national chairman Paul Afoko, who is making a dramatic return nearly a decade after his suspension from the same position. Meanwhile, the contest for the general secretary position is also shaping up with former communications minister Owusu Ekuful and former Subin MP Eugene Boakye declaring their intentions to run for the general secretary positions when nominations open. The following report has more.
The race for the national chairman position of the opposition New Patriotic Party has taken an exciting new twist, with several big names throwing their hats into the ring.
But an administrative matter.
Former MPP national chairman Paul Afoko is making a dramatic comeback nearly a decade after his indefinite suspension from the same position. His declaration late last month has certainly reignited political conversations across the party. Afoko now joins a growing list of party heavyweights eyeing the top job, including Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Enchibo-Siako, also known as Chairman Wuntumi, and former General Secretary John Boedu. Also in the race are former Energy Minister Boakye Ejaku, former MPP Vice Chairman Sami Krab, David Kankamboedu, and former Minister for Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs Stephen Asamoah Boateng. In all, about 7 formidable stalwarts are gearing up for what many are calling one of the fiercest chairmanship contests in the MPP history.
Has placed this song on my heart.
For the General Secretary position, former Minister for Communications Owusu Ekuful announced her intention to contest when nominations open. It remains unclear whether the incumbent, Justin Kodia-Frimpong, will seek re-election. Former Subin MP Eugene Boakye also declared his interest in the race. The battle lines are being drawn, but as the campaign drums beat louder, one thing is clear: these races are wide open, and only time will tell who wears the crown. For JoyNews, Fatahu Bayaga, Accra.
We have won to save Ghana.
Well, let's now bring in political science lecturer at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Dr. Amache Boateng. Grateful for your time this evening. Looking at the list of aspirants, which of these personalities surprises you the most, and for which position, especially between the chairmanship and the general secretary position, and why?
Good evening, and thanks for having me. Let me say good evening to you, Alex. Actually, that of Mr. Paul Afoko is the one that takes me aback.
Dr. Machi, if you can kindly speak up for me, I can barely hear you.
Okay. I hope you can hear me better now.
Much better.
I was saying that of Mr. Paul Afoko comes to me as a surprise, actually, because Initially, he did indicate that he wasn't interested and that he was simply keeping to himself. And we thought that that was the end of it. But somehow, eventually, he made a U-turn. And to me, that's very significant. The chairmanship post has also attracted, other stalwarts. And I think it portends very well for the MPP. You just mentioned that of Honorable Ursula, and I think her decision to participate also somehow takes me aback. I didn't expect her to come forward. That's all well and good if, some of these people who have been in the party for a while understand the need for the party to be strong, very well organized. If they decided to come on board and play a role at the executive, the party's executive office, then it is good. It is positive. Political parties need, their experienced hands in times like this to come together and try to get the party to sort of remobilize its support base and make itself as attractive as possible to the electorate come the next elections.
Let's talk about Ursula Owusu. She's the only woman in the pack, and she was such a polarizing figure when she was MP and also Minister for Communications. Looking at the party structure, do you think that the MPP is ready yet to elect a woman as its General Secretary?
Well, this is an issue that anytime it comes up, it takes me by surprise because Ghana should be used, to this phenomenon of women playing significant role in political positions. And so I don't have any difficulty at all with her participation and especially the office she's going in for. She's straightforward, lays her cards on the table. I think the party faithfuls will, see her as a strong figure, someone who will be able to simply help the party to come out as strong as possible. And when an organization behaves this way, we are saying that it sticks to its constitutional provisions and try to allow or try to define the interests of the party as clearly as possible and play along, the lines of the party's interest. When the party is able to do that, then we say that the party is strong. The party becomes predictable. All the members who are in knows exactly what to do and what not to do. And that becomes good for the party. You need individuals who will be able to make such an arrangement and make it work. And I think Ursula is one such person.
The chairmanship race, though, that looks like it will be very exciting and heavily contested because whatever happens, there's going to be a new chairman because we know that the current chairman, Stephen Intim, has recused himself on health grounds. Let's look at the individuals that are contesting. We have Paul Afoko, we have John Buedu, we have Boakye Jakon, we have Kankan Buedu as well. Really, do you think that whoever emerges winner in this chairmanship race will win by a landslide or it will be the thinnest of margins?
I'm expecting a landslide in favor of Mr. Paul Afoko. I'm expecting a landslide.
That's quite a bold declaration. Why?
Hello?
I said that's quite a bold declaration.
Yes, I'm expecting a landslide because of what has happened previously and his work when he was the chairman. He started to put down structures that work, structures that will make the party strong at the base. And he's very knowledgeable, given the fact that in spite of what happened, if he had decided to come back, then I expect the party faithfuls to see him as someone they will want to work with. And especially so now that I think the absence of the chairman has cost the party a lot. And so a lot of things have been going on that you realize that the leadership vacuum, to me, is to blame. And so as soon as possible, they need someone who will be able to put his feet down and get the party to rally around the party's constitution. And then the party's vision should be redefined clearly so that all the rank and file can also simply attach themselves to it and be guided by that. I expect Paul Afoko to win handsomely.
And who stands the best chance to win in the General Secretary position?
The General Secretary's position is going to be an interesting contest, actually. I'm looking forward to seeing a new face, generally. I'm looking forward to seeing a new face. Besides Ursula and then the existing, a leader, I'm not aware of other contestants.
We have the former Subin MP as well.
I see. I hope Ursula will be able to do her campaign well and lay her cards on the table in such a way as to make her ticket attractive. I'm tempted to, buy into her position. I don't know whether it's simply because of the way she does her things. She's a straightforward person. I like people who are like that. To me, it's not difficult to work with them. They play their cards, on the table. And I'm simply expecting her to win.
Dr. Kwesi Boateng, glad you could join us this evening. Thank you very much for your time, also for sticking and staying with us for the past 1.5 hours. This has been The Pulse. We came to you live from our studios at Kokum Lane, Accra. My name is Kenneth Jesse. Have a good evening.